Hello. Okay, hello again. Our presentation is on the topic we've got on the slide, and I think that we've got this word Poland in the topic, but we could say that the situation in Poland more or less is the same as in other countries. And there were a lot of words said today about the situation. So what we will try to do is to adjust in that frame which was depicted by previous speakers today. And the topic is very broad, and these challenges, these contemporary challenges we are facing we've got so many challenges that we should
15 minutes.
but we've got 15 minutes and we should choose. So what we decided to do is that I will tell about the challenge of proper terminology, because we've got the situation in which reality is speeding very, very, very fast, and journalists, educators are trying to find a proper terminology. But more or less we could say that we've got a very huge problem here. And then we've got the problem of responsibility of the journalists, educators for improper terminology. And I will show two examples of such terms which are very broadly used in journalist educators' sphere. Then they are legitimized by public discourse, in the frame of public discourse, and then we got terms made by these terms I will talk about, and then Professor Skrzypczak will tell you a few words about the problems with defining and with understanding the position of journalists in Polish sphere.
And media system.
Media system in Poland, yes.
Because we need feedback from market. When we educate students, we should know what market would like to have.
Okay, so briefly speaking, everybody wants to have good journalist educators who are spreading good standards in the society. We've got a lot of organizations which are doing this. For example, this organization is also pursuing to help us in this sphere, yes, and it's really great, yes. But we know that it's not so easy in this very complicated and complex environment we have nowadays. So, as I said, we've got this insufficiency and vagueness of media workers and journalism educators terminology. We are using very vague terms, and these terms then are very often misused by broader public to their own purposes, political, economical, and so on and so on. And that's a huge problem. For example, one of the terms which is misused and should be really criticized is fake news. This is something what was coined in a broader public, yes, then a lot of people accepted this term in scientific, also in academic sphere, yes, and then the term was legitimized, and coming back we've got a lot of troubles with this legitimized also by academic society term. For example, I think this argument is very meaningful, yes, made by UNESCO, that if we are talking about fake news, we are talking about a kind of oxymoron, because news is something what is of very good quality, yes, and fake news is something what is on one hand of very good quality and some on the other hand not, yes. So we've got the mess, we've got the confusion, and then we've got very emotional reaction of people who are dealing with the words, because words, as we know, have not only this, we could say, informational aspect, but they've got also emotion. And this emotion is changing a lot. And people very often are choosing those words and expressions which are not very full of content, but they are full of emotions. And then it's easy to use such concepts to do very not well things. And this is what UNESCO's handbook proposes instead of fake news, yes? So disinformation, malinformation. But another problem arises. Who in the broad public will be using these terms? And those not so much complicated, but for broader public, very complicated definitions. So we are between very two not comfortable situations. Yes, we could use very catchy terms as academics, legitimizing them and producing emotions which are not proper to the discussion about qualified journalism. And we could do something else. We could go towards complicating description of reality, but in that case, nobody will listen us. So that's the problem, yes. And how to combine this, referring to Alexandra's proposition, yes, this theoretical approach and this practical approach. This is, I think, the main challenge for journalist educators today, because as Kurt Lewin said, yes. Theory without a practice is empty, but practice without theory is blind. But how to combine? Who knows? Yes. So that, and the second situation, the second term is of course hate speech. Term which is producing a lot of harm in society, and we could give a Polish example about this. It means. In January, we've got a very sad situation. Mayor of Gdańsk was killed by madmen, but we've got a huge discussion about deeper roots of this tragedy, and there's a huge discussion in media. Was it what made journalists against Mayor of Gdańsk? For his death, was it hate speech or not? And what we've got the situation in which these people who were for him, yes, are attacking government, that government and media associated with government were spreading hate speech. And the answer is, of course, we were not doing this, you are doing hate speech. That's the point of that problem, yes? If you are using this term, it is like atomic bomb. In the public sphere, yes, because if I am accusing something of producing hate speech, yes, the answer is obvious, yes, he will accuse me about this. And the point is that a lot of academics, a lot of researchers are using this term. And for example, what they are proposing is some dimensions, some factors of hate speech and so on, but these dimensions and factors are always very vague. And very general and very disputable. And in the end, we've got a massive discussion full of anger, and we are not going forward, but we are going down. So that's about social responsibility of academics. Yes. So I'm very grateful to Professor, especially for this careful examination of terms and definitions. Yes, this is exactly what we have to do. But frankly speaking, and sadly speaking, yes, this is not a very common approach in academic society. And that's it. Here we've got something what more or less is much more profound in that sphere. And okay, the concept of liquid modernity. Tell some words. I'm not pretty sure how familiar with the concept of liquid modernity by Zygmunt Bauman.
Please explain.
Yes, liquid modernity. Zygmunt Bauman was a sociologist. He came from Poland to the Western world. Yes, we've got this. Political context. We are talking about his immigration in the 60s. He lived in Leeds for a couple of years. He was a professor of Leeds, yes, and he proposed a very luminant scholar. If we are talking about postmodernism thinking, if we are talking about this word, which is a very liquid one. It means that we've got roles, social roles, and this modern and previous modern world was a world in which we've got exactly defined roles. For example, the world of journalist was very well defined. And we had this feeling that we know exactly what a very well qualified journalist needs, yes, for the text. And then we got a new environment, what was showed very carefully today. And in the new environment, nothing is for sure. Everything is for a moment, and even if we want to predict, yes, we have to remember that our predictions are only predictions, and we are living in the world of the high risks. But it means that we should treat these high risks as challenges, yes, and if we are following properly with those challenges, yes, we've got the opportunity to create the identity of ours, yes, which will be satisfactory for us, because Zygmunt Bauman is of course a real theoretician who is dealing with the problem of identity. How we are able to construct identity, yes, and what we could do with our identity in this conditions of liquid modernity. Yes. So. Thank you very much.
Liquid modernity, it means also variability, yeah, this big change, yeah, and welcome everybody once again. And there are some examples. The result of liquid modernity on the media markets. We can say that we can observe next media morphosis, yeah? Next big step in the developing of media market. Why? Because, of course, Nico mentioned about this, technological revolution, political and legal transformation, market trends, for example, tabloidization, yeah? But also citizen journalism, social media. So, the term death of journalism, this question about this term, you mentioned, I remember, this big discussion, about this. But in fact, we don't know, in fact, during this period, who is a journalist, in fact, yeah? Media worker, journalist, YouTuber, etc. And what is this? The press, what is it? Media, yeah? So, maybe a short overview of the contemporary Polish media landscape. I guess that it's similar to Ukraine history, yeah? After 1989, privatization of the press sector, transformation of the state radio and television into public broadcasting organization. I'm sorry, this is not true. Since 2016, 15, we have again state radio and television. Sorry, licensing for private broadcasters and the foreign capital into Polish media market, and of course European integration of audiovisual media policies. It means that we have EU standards on this area. Okay, this slide seems very optimistic, yeah? Because numbers of newspapers is larger and larger. But in fact, look at this, total circulation of the press in Poland. This is the death of press. Daily papers in 1990 and now in 2015. Yeah? Average sale of national newspaper, for example, Gazeta Wyborcza, -15, yeah? Even tabloids like Fact on Super Express. Oh, I lost the wrong data, it's about 13%, yeah? So, largest publishers in Poland, everyone. Bauer linear access Springer from Germany, Polska Press, also from Germany, Agora, etc. So this is also, in my opinion, very interesting because, well, this is a question about future. Yeah, because when we think about our students, we should have feedback from market, and what we can see here, share in the advertising market. For example, press on the press market, 29 in 2005, and 2016 only 8. Internet from 3 to 2025. Yeah, and maybe this is also important. This is a culture of pay for nothing in internet. Yeah, because but this is also a case of the death of a newspaper. Yeah. So next problem is professionalization. Yeah, when we mean about professionalization, for example, for journalists, we mean about multi-stage process of forming a given profession, and we have 5 stages. Yeah? First stage, the group of individuals undertakes to perform a certain job. Second, definite organizational form. Third is setting up a system of professional education. Fourth, legal guarantees, and final stage, developing of ethical rules, setting out the standards of conduct for the members of such profession. So, next profession is deemed professionalist if it meets the following condition: specific structural knowledge, adequate curriculum to teach it, structured and consistent performance of tasks for the public good. Nico mentioned about this, public interest. Yeah? A sense of responsibility for one's professional task, autonomous work, and authority in society. Yeah? So, question about professionalization of journalism. When we can compare journalism and, for example, such profession like medical and or legal profession, we know that we find here, for example, in Poland, difference, yeah, because we know here structural knowledge, yeah, and this is a question about formal education, yeah, but in our opinion, this you can find here significant determinants of the professionalization of journalists. Professional autonomy, separate professional standard, I mean about self-regulation. We don't have any tradition in Poland, for example, okay, we started, yeah, about self-regulation principle, yeah, and serving, yeah, this is the most important thing to the public interest. But this is a good question. We will organize in October the Oxford debate in Poznan, while journalists versus media workers. Yeah. So, what is the situation of Polish journalists in Poland? You know, we have 38 million of people, citizens. Yeah, and you know, together, full-time journalists and freelancers, it's about 10,000 of big or small. Maybe this is interesting structure of employment. Yeah, 23 in the press, 25 in periodicals, 11 in state public radio, 8 in private radio station, 7 in state public or public TV, 9 in private TV station, 3.5 in online media, and 2.50 in press agencies. Yeah? So, this is a portrait of typical journalists in Poland, about 35 years old only. Yeah? Over 70% have been working less than 20 years. After this period, they go to, for example, PR, to parliament, to other. Yeah? majority of journalists give this profession up after 15 years. Yeah. Why? Because it's you know they are after this year they are completely exhausted. Well, this work without time hours limit. Yeah. Well, without any minimum salary. Yeah. This is a problem. And occur journalist school in Poland on the most important universities, but also in private journalism courses. So, on the end, we have some optimistic thing. I hope that it will it will work here, because how our students, in fact, studies. Yeah. Okay. Rachel, could you?
No.
This is their production, yeah? And you can see how our I know that many people from Ukraine visited us, yeah, but you can see how our faculty works, yeah? I think this is the better way for educated students. Oh, please. Yeah, the radio studio. Excuse me. Our library.
Jest ja to, że tam było, że tam
It's a TV studio.
Jest to journalism in Kiev also has something like this.
In this room, we'll have our seminar, yeah, on the top. Tradition. Yeah.